get to cut to the chase and introduce our January speaker, Tom Beland. Welcome, Tom.
Hi, nice to see you guys. I feel like a playmate of the month. I missed it January. I like long walks. I don't like complicated math. And people who are real. I can show some art and then draw if you guys want.
Fantastic. I just turned on the share, so you'll be able to do that.
Oh, cool. Content, screen, start broadcast. Great. All right, here we go. So this is when I found out that Whitney Cummings was having a baby. She's a comedian that I like a lot. And so for a long time, comedians were doing this thing called bumping mics. And so I did this and I sent this to her. And this is like maybe a day ago. I made this. This is on Procreate. One of my favorite things to use. It's been a godsend for me. I do enjoy digital quite a bit. This is a cartoon I did. This really did happen. This kid drew me. And it was a really good job. And he said I could have it. And I said, well, the only problem is I don't know who did it because he didn't sign it. So you should always sign your name. That tells everyone who the artist was. And he goes, oh, yeah, I forgot. I said, yeah, so go ahead and sign it. So he signs it and right over my face, he signed his name. These take about, I think they take up to 4 hours to do. I tend to work pretty fast. My favorite part of it is probably the writing stage, because then they're all like little improv characters in my head. I work at a daycare, and I've been getting a lot of ideas with the kids for comics lately, and that's been fun too. This is about me spending New Year's Day by just taking care of myself, by just doing my laundry and taking myself out to a dinner and shaving and getting some groceries and watching the game on TV and then reading a big stack of comics to end the night. And it was one of my favorite New Year's in a long time. Again, Procreate on this. I'm able to try things out like screen tones, and I really enjoy them quite a bit. I use them an awful lot. This is a self-portrait.
Nice.
I do like the marijuana. This is it was a anniversary of when I did this book, and 20 years ago, I think, which I can't believe. But we fought tooth and nail about printing this book because it was too personal. It was black and white, autobiographical. It was comedy. It was all the four horsemen of the apocalypse for comics, as far as I saw it as. And she just thought it could work, and we did it. And I love that's where I got to meet retailers like Roy Root and oh my God, Joe Ferrara, and was over at in Concord, Joe Fields, and Jim Hanley, all these guys who were buying books that I never knew, and they were buying big numbers of my books. It's a friend of mine's birthday. He does Beowulf, Alex Fajardo. This was a cartoon strip about swearing, about how I grew up swearing. And the records we listened to were like Red Fox and George Carlin and Oh my God, so many different people. And I would hear my mother swear every now and then. And I wish I could swear at work because it would make my job a lot easier. And then the final panel, I say, hey, to quit being fucking assholes and let Lisa play with you. And I think it's cool that the kid says fuck yeah, because I think it's adorable when kids swear. In my book, there's a phrase that she uses now in Chicacabra and all the new books. There's a catchphrase she says called "Fuck yeah, Kit Kat," and that was taken from two kids who were playing D&D in the store I used to work at. And one of them would say, "Hey, I'm gonna get some drink. Does anybody want anything?" And the kid would yell, "Fuck yeah, Kit Kat, give me a soda." And so I kind of snagged that, and now my character says that quite a bit. These are ballpoint pen drawings out of a little sketchbook I carry at work, and the kids like to watch me draw, so I just start drawing stuff. This is ballpoint pen, and I think blue pencil. I usually carry my blue pencil on me. If anyone's got any questions, holler up. Tarantino.
I think we're just admiring.
Oh, thanks. But when the kids found out that I did comics, they didn't know for a while. They just knew me as this old guy who worked there. And then they found out about the comics. Now it's the biggest request to draw Spider-Man. That's ballpoint pen also. Now they're curious about this book, but it's outside their age range still. The Penguin. I did this really cool miniseries that I was going to write and draw for DC. That was Wonder Woman teaming up with all the different members of the Justice League. And in this one, she watches Gotham while Bruce has to go out of town, and she goes up against a Penguin, and he's just a dick, and he keeps getting away left and right. And it's like watching like an old Warner Brothers cartoon where they can't seem to catch the guy. And little Fantastic Four and Spider-Man there. They have no idea who the Fantastic Four are. The kids at my school. Storm. This is ballpoint pen. This is what they see me doing the most, are these little expressions. I love drawing Isabel, and I like making these expressions. So I've been working on eyes past few books. I'm influenced, I think, most by Hanna-Barbera cartoons, like the Johnny Quest era, old Yogi Bear era, but also people like Bone. Jeff Smith was a big influence on my style. Darwin Cook later on. Bruce Timm, I love. And there's a little bit of Al Hirschfeld in my style also. But once I draw her once, boy, the whole page will be drawn pretty quick. This is from the new book that I'm working on, where Tarantino gets to speak for a couple of days. And they're all running what he's going to sound like, what he's going to say. And this is an old cathedral, this little church thing in Puerto Rico. I had to redraw. And that's Tarantino up on top. This is pretty much how I write. I think panel first, and then I lay it out kind of loose and do all my script and what I want to say.
So is that all in Procreate too?
Yeah. This is all done in Procreate here. I use like the technical pen and just go blue. I love working blue. I've always had blue pencils and stuff. And
but like what dimensions do you end up using for it? What works in Procreate?
I had to learn to do the lettering. I still letter on Illustrator, but I still want to see how the lettering is going to look on the page, so I write it out by hand on another layer, and I use the one of the felt markers for that, and then I use like a really big thick pencil. It's called oh shoot, what is that thing called? I'll pull up one of the pages to show you. And this, because I was drawing an actual church, took a while to get down. But once I got that done, I can knock a page out in maybe a half an hour sometimes if I'm really into the story. There's this story I'm writing that I did called it's called One Bobo's Pot, and it's based on this really goofy fable in Puerto Rico about this kid who had to go up to his grandma's house to get this pot to make chicken and rice. And he felt since the pot had 3 legs and he had only 2, the pot should carry him down the hill. It's one of those, it's one of those how dumb is this kid type fables. And I took it, and instead she's walking around town, and she sees this little kettle sitting in the street, and it follows her home, and it has like this little Hitchcock feel to it. And you have to make something for it, and if it doesn't like the food, it swallows you in. And it was a really fun book to do. This is when I have a book where she comes to Santa Rosa, where I live, and this is the Flamingo Hotel, which is an actual place here in town. I used a lot of the old signs that they have out here for landmarks. I love letting people know that, hey, if this takes place in, Napa, I'm going to show that wine crushing statue. Or if it takes place in your hometown, there are a few places that are iconic, and I'm going to grab those locations to let you know, yeah, this does happen in your town. It's not just a bunch of square buildings. This is from, I think, the next book, where my character Angel is talking about how his mother works 2 jobs. And so the only thing he can do for her is provide a hot meal when she comes home. And this is loosely based on my housekeeper who lived in Puerto Rico. This is a creature they come across. This is in the next book. This is based on a friend of mine who was a burlesque dancer who had really long legs and wanted to be in one of my books. And so I asked her, can I name her after you? And she said, I said I didn't want to because I want people to know who it was based on. But I said, but what's your middle name? And she gave me this look. She goes, Hattie. And so this character's name is Hattie. And one of my favorite panels I've done in ages is that bottom right corner where she takes the hat off his head, because the line says, hello, Arturo, I see you still wear the hat. And making those legs is so much fun. The whole book just had these characters I was falling in love with. The guy who's wearing the hat is a new character. His name is Arturo. He's named after a cartoonist, Arturo's Yepes, in Puerto Rico. And he is a Hebrew. And these are sort of spirits who take care of they're farmers. They take care of the animals. And he's in charge of all this supernatural creatures that live in Puerto Rico. You see that? Move this and see the bottom one. Very fun character to draw. This came out the day that Mickey's rights were up on Steamboat Willie. This is one that was really popular with my coworkers. I had to make lunch. I had to make the snack that day. We had 73 kids. And I made turkey sandwiches and it was a nightmare. And I made one kid said, my mom puts a smiley face with the mustard, so I did it for him. Every kid wanted smiley faces. And on the final panel, I'm facing the little Padma judge, and it said it didn't matter how hard I tried to put together a decent meal. It didn't matter how much love I put on the plate. There was always going to be a Padma. And she says, Mr. Tommy, please pack your knives and go. And her bread doesn't have a smiley face. This was the other cartoon I did that day. Except people pointed out that I need to change Tigger.
Yeah, I've been noticing that with a lot of different Tigger illustrations. I'm going,
Yeah.
guys, the
Yeah.
Disney version of Tigger came out in the 60s.
Yeah. This is a drawing I did for someone for a Christmas present. Him and his wife played Dungeons and Dragons with their daughter. And this was his wife's, he's the DM, and was their final battle against this demon to put him back in this book. And this is 14 by 17. And now I'm in their D&D group. We play every Friday. These are probably my favorite things on the world to do. These are little sketch cards, and this is inspired by my dad, who would do this when we would go out to eat. He would flip the check over and draw the riches on the back of the check, and would leave it with the tip, and they would freak out over these. And so I buy those pre-cut baseball card size cards and the sleeves, and whenever my friend and I go out to dinner, I bring those with me. We always draw the people working there. This was when we went to see the Niner game on Christmas Day, and there were 2 employees working the bar, and so they each got cards. This is Marcos. And some of these employees have waited years to get a card because I don't see them. They work the night shift when I go home. There's a lot of Hanna-Barbera in that drawing from the food. It looks like she's serving the Bronto ribs almost. And I used to love that when Wilma and Betty worked at the diner with Fred and Barney, and it was like, here we come on the run with the burger on the bun. And that's how they hold their trays in that cartoon. My friend who doesn't know I drew her. It's another server. I've drawn so many of these things. That was the hostess. This is a drawing I did for a guy commission. And then move this over here so people can see it. His grandparents loved to dance tango, and they passed away. And so this was sort of their drawing. And I spent more time on her just to get it was mostly the expression I wanted to get down, but also that kick. And it's one of my favorite drawings I've ever done. This guy got emotional when he saw it too. That was pretty right on. Like I said, I've done a number of these. You can see me looking to spell his name correctly in the upper right-hand corner. I'm asking the waitress how to spell it. Nothing worse when you draw somebody and you spell their name wrong. Ugh. He was fun. These are circus performers. I go to the Flint Creek Circus every year. They now I get a really good seat because I've done this like 3 years in a row, and I draw the show. And this is one of the girls, and she has these chairs in her teeth, and she's spinning them around. There's also this music festival that happens in Railroad Square where I live, and they have all these bands. And so this year I drew every band that played, and this was a Mexican band. There was a lot of fun. I thought the tuba player, I thought he was going to have a stroke because he was jumping up and down constantly. And what I'll do is I'll make ballpoint pen sketches of these guys and go home and tighten up all the inks. It's a place where I go watch the games. It's Osceola's. These are all the employees working that day. In the middle is the owner. Really cool place. This is when Keith Giffen died.
Oh. I had not heard that. That's a shame.
Oh yeah, it was last year, towards the end of the year, he passed away. This is a sketch cover I did for someone. This is a brush pen, micron, and I think ballpoint pen, and probably Sharpie for the big black areas. And all those little squiggles are by hand on the top part. Crazy therapeutic. A lot of cross hatching. This was, I think, 30 Days of Spider-Man. This is the circus. It's the birthday of one of the trapeze artists. She has a dog and a horse that she's always talking about. That's on Procreate. I drew them on their wedding day. And so they asked on their anniversary, they said, could you age us 20 years? This is also brush pen. I use Pentel brush pens, and there's Sharpie in this and Micron. This was almost the Jackson 5. I was so bummed that nobody else sat down. This is a cartoon about how I used to love Yogi Bear because he used to steal food, and he was just like the kind of guy I would love to kick it with. And then all of a sudden, he decided to spend his time solving pollution. And it kind of killed Yogi Bear for me. And so in the last panel, I'm trying to talk him into stealing picnic baskets again. He says, do you know how many trees died to make that basket? Probably the most influential next to Spider-Man character is Yogi Bear. Oh, I love that guy. This is Procreate. I kind of love that Batman's so out of shape there. These are the two guys who are working that day. 100 Stories. This was actually going to be optioned by an Italian animation studio back in, I think, 10 years ago. But one of their partners died. So they couldn't do it. But they love the fact that the cartoons, I guess all the shows deal with like the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and this one bounces all over the place, so they could really play with pop culture of every era. I draw me so differently now. It's like another guy. This was brush pen and Copic markers, I think. There's my girl. That's Procreate. My favorite line is when I do the tail. No one has any questions?
Well, we're just kind of watching what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
So-
those of us that use other kinds of programs are sitting here going, oh, yeah, I got a brush that'll do that. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. This is when I fell in the
What's-
pool one day, and my dad pulled me out of the pool. He was like, it was like God's hand coming to grab me out of the pool. Anytime I do a cartoon about my dad, it takes a while for me to settle into it. This
I
is when I
like how
stuck.
you're using the pattern drop.
Isn't that fun?
Maybe like
I've
the
really
old,
enjoyed using those.
yeah, those old, they've got so many wonderful patterns that they can imitate those old,
Yeah, and
what
this
do you
kind of
call them? You know, you cut them and put them in there. And
it kind of makes it look less flat too. You know, it's I really got into using these things. This is me sneaking home a Donna Summer's "Love to Love You Baby" record
mhm.
in a John Denver's Greatest Hits sleeve. And I come home and Mom says, "What are you listening to?" And I pointed to John Denver, and my sister looks at it. She goes, "Really?" She goes, "What song are you listening to right now?" And I go, "One of his greatest hits." And she knew right away. And that the only reason I was listening to it is because the rumor was she had like 12,000 orgasms making this song. This is where I'm playing with the size of the cartoon. I added a row to treat it like almost like a Sunday comic type of vibe. Pretty fun. This is of all my comics about the kids, my coworkers love this one the most. This is about no matter how bad the kids behave, we give them back to their parents at 6 o'clock, no matter what. And so it ends with I'm glad I never had kids of my own. I don't think I'm a responsible enough human being to raise a human. I like kids, but only till 6.
Tell the
And so that
parents
was,
that the child free
yeah,
happily
that,
babysit kids like puppies, but we give them back. They get a break, but
oh,
then they're stuck with them.
it was pretty fun. For the entire week, I had people yelling at me from across the schoolyard. It's only till 6.
You mean 6 o'clock or age of 6?
No, 6 o'clock.
Ah,
Because the parents come at night to pick their kids up from our daycare, and it's like, here you go. Here's your angry, shitty kid. We couldn't figure out either. It's your turn.
Yeah, but they
And
got a break while you did it.
when a kid blows up, I'll sit next to him. I go, look, you got to talk about it. By the way, I'm done with this at 6 o'clock. I'm it's when the waitress says Maggie. Uh, this is about me missing a soup that they used to have in Puerto Rico called asapao. And this was a fun one. This is Procreate. This was me working on this. I was doing a sketch cover commission, and it was a wraparound. So I wanted this part on the front, and on the back part you saw the Batman snowman. And then I kind of just got into it and colored the whole thing, so I'm a maniac. She's fun to draw.
Mhm.
This is all the leaves in my front yard. I thought was kind of cool. We don't do that. Let's see. This is one about how sometimes I just want to be alone. I want to have my own alone bubble. But at the same time, like I want to be left alone in the comic shop when I'm buying my comics, but I'll talk your ear off about Spider-Man at the counter. And that when I'm in the coffee shop, when I'm creating, I want people to leave me alone. But if I'm just drawing, I'll show you all kinds of stuff. And it said I don't want to be in the relationship based on appearances where you write glowing sonnets about each other on Facebook while you scream at each other privately. I said I'd much rather be lonely than feel alone with someone.
Hmm.
And then it said, in my entire life, I've never lived in a place that was mine. A place where if the relationship didn't work out, the other person had to leave and not me. I said, that's a lot of power for a partner to have over you. And there's Fred trying to get back in the house. And sometimes I'll start on an idea for a comic and I'll just all of a sudden go another direction. And this one kind of did that with me. Someone sent me this. I thought it was pretty funny. Markups. Too much cleavage. Can we make our eyes bigger? Can you add a sunset? This was kind of cool. This is Thanksgiving. And it says, my job today consisted of drawing with the kids for an hour. We used markers, colored pencils, and crayons. I'm 61 years old. And then for lunch, we all had some quesadillas. They were delicious. We also had apple slices. During recess, I taught a group of kids how to throw a frisbee. And every now and then, when it was my turn, I'd throw some deep ones. The oohs and the ahs from the kids catching them. I had to sit a boy down and explain why you can't quit a game because you're not playing well. I said, losing makes you try harder, and that will make you better. And then I almost fell into a food coma after we and I was leaving, and they all yelled, Happy Thanksgiving, Mr. Tommy. I got the greatest virtual hug. This was a big day for me. Because the holiday seasons really can make me low because my sister loved that time of year. And the staff and the kids really made me enjoy the holidays. It's the kind of thing where you bump into a job and you actually fucking love it. These are turkeys that live outside my place. My favorite thing is that they'll stop traffic for like 20 minutes and not even care.
I always love it with turkeys. It's sort of like domestic turkeys. I don't feel guilty about Thanksgiving because they're a vegetable, whereas wild turkeys are proof that dinosaurs still walk the earth.
These guys were hardcore on Thanksgiving. They were walking around going, yeah, I'm here. I'm here. This is a book it's a low-res image, but it's a book I illustrated for these guys who have a podcast called Now Playing. And it was a bigger show than I thought it was. And we had a lot of fun making this book. And the foreword is by John Carpenter. That's me signing one of the books.
That's great.
This was when we practiced. We had a shooter, a lockdown drill, which I didn't know we were having that day. And I'd never been in one of these before. And it was really weird. Kids had to be totally quiet. And the lights were off and she was looking through the screen. And I said, the only thing I remember when I was in school was a fire drill. We walked out in a line, single line, to stand around. And a horn would go off and go back inside. I said, but this is like being in Die Hard, plus Anne Frank. And we have this kid who always yells in our class. And I said, do you know how hard it is to keep 26 kids absolutely quiet? I can tell you this is pretty much impossible. And he yells, can we play Connect 4 after this? And the last panel, I didn't know what to say, so I just left it blank. But you watch kids practice that, and that'll kind of change you a bit. This is a brush pen and Micron. This is brush pen, Sharpie, and color pencil. I was a huge fan of this era of Hanna-Barbera, Johnny Quest, all their superhero stuff. Little Spawn. There's John Carpenter with our books. I actually did a variant cover for Twig when it came out. They were sold in our store. And these were some of the blanks I did. I did them in black and white, which were a lot of fun. This was a really cool series if you haven't read it, by Scotty Young. God, the art's beautiful in that book too. This is me being happy that it's Christmas, or it's that it's the fall. I'm not a summer person. I'm gonna go faster with this stuff. This is a woman I work with who's a teacher. Rochelle works in the bar that I go to. This was a doodle that turned into a sketch. A guy wanted a drawing. The guy made a commission to have her with Thor's hammer and Captain America's shield, which I think has been done to death. And I thought she would win that, and also all this other shit if she played poker with people. And this has some ballpoint pen in it. That's Procreate. This is when the chicken McNugget came out. My boss and I were trying them out. We thought they were dry as shit, but the sauces were really tasty. This was a tough one when we talk about tough cartoons. So it says, I did something I once thought would be impossible, something that I thought was extremely emotional for me. And it was all about my profile picture. And for years, I had that as my profile picture. That's my sister that I drew. That's also the tattoo on my arm. It says, 7 years have gone by since I lost my only sister. The grief has been heavy on my soul. I think about her every day. My picture profile is a drawing I made of her the day after she died. But I've been having this reoccurring dream, my sister and I sitting at the beach, talking about life. She brought up my profile picture. She said, I don't need to hold on to it to remind me of her. And then she says, whenever you need to see me, you only need your pencil. Please celebrate you now. For 7 years, my grieving has defined who I am, but I am more than my grief. So when I woke up, I changed my profile picture and celebrated me. This is the only time I cried more making a comic strip was the one about my dad, forgetting what he looked like.
It's very touching.
Yeah. So when I make these, I'm usually at the coffee shop. And they can kind of tell what's going on at my table. If I'm really deep into something, they'll know that, like, I'll get a free cup of tea or something. It's good to be creative in a place that lets you be creative. You know?
How did
So
she pass?
somewhere where it makes you comfortable enough to really not worry about if I'm bawling my eyes out while I'm making an emotional comic.
How did your sister pass away?
Aneurysm.
Wow.
They found her in her home. Her friend was going to pick her up, and she thought she was meditating in a chair.
Oh my God.
And she goes, Susan, come on, answer the door, come on. And then she realized something was going on. And the paramedic said she probably felt dizzy, sat down, and that was it.
Wow.
And I thought, that's how I want to go. I did not want to be brave.
How old was she?
She was 57.
Young.
Yeah, my mother was 55. My dad was 56. When they
Wow.
passed. So when I hit 60, it was it still is weird. It's weird to live longer than those people.
Good for you, though.
Yeah.
And it's
I don't
great
mean
that you're
that like
sharing your
I don't mean that like,
experiences.
yeah. It is weird because when I got I have a TV deal with Vin Diesel for Chicacabra, and we want to do Spanish with it, and she'd be the first person I call for that. And I still do that when something big happens. I immediately want to hit that button to call her number, and I still find myself doing that every now and then. When I finished my sequel to the book, I left a voicemail because I was so used to just going, "Oh my God, give me a call back." So, but you deal with it. This is for a guy who bought his first cowboy hat. It's so stupid, but he's a doctor, and it hangs in his office. So I said, "So when you're telling people they have a condition, this is behind you." And he says, "Yep, it's right there on my wall." That's that one. This is about I dreamt I was at the airport and I was missing my connecting flight to Amsterdam. So I was asking a friend if he would drive me there. And Thursday I did a stand-up comedy to a sold-out Holy City Zoo. I was having a great set until Captain America got belligerent and was thrown out. On Saturday I was helping Beckett and Bulmer steal dilithium, which upset the Klingons, who tried to kill us on a bird of prey before we beamed back aboard the USS Cerritos. And it was all my NyQuil dreams. This is the bar I go to. This is every now and then, even though I don't drink, I love to spend time at a local bar called Osceola's. It's where I watch all my football games. Even though I don't spend a lot of money, they treat me like a rock star. And that always feels amazing. They put a little sign there saying reserved for the cartoonist. I started going there when I began working at the comic shop. They were nearby and had great hamburgers. It's the first place I drew the sketch cards. My sister had a way of saying my name, and it was adopted by one of the bartenders, Tom Ass, which over the years morphed into It's the Ass Man. I've drawn all of the employees. They all hang on the wall, my only museum. Some have waited forever to get their own sketch card. This dude waited 6 years. My favorite place to watch a big game, it's packed with crazed, wonderful sports fanatics. When my sister died, the owner gave me a much-needed hug. Spent the entire day watching football and never saw a bill. It's why I love going to the bar. I don't drink yet. The waitresses really don't mind because I always smell like weed. This was the rest a sketch I was doing, I think for an X-Men sketch cover. This was Spidey-tober. Yeah, these are all Spider-Man sketches. Gru. I think this was Inktober. These are all done on Procreate. This is going to be him dodging laser beams. You know what? Fantastic Four, they don't do anything with Reed Richards anymore. He's just yakety yak. It's like, bend, do something. So Craven. Hey, this is one of my students. When I got him, 2016, he drew like this. Later on, he draws like this. He's in 9th grade here. And that's what he does now.
Nice.
Yeah. This was Inktober. These were two girls at school. And they're staring up in the sky. I thought they were looking at planes. But then I realized they were staring at these two giant trees with great anticipation, I might add. When the wind picked up, they got excited. One of them yelled, "Look!" A single fragile leaf began to fall from the tree. Then these two girls raced to see who could catch it before the leaf landed on the ground. It was intense. It's become my favorite sport. Hey, Tom, wait, I have 25,000 on this leaf. Inktober, this was Rush. These are all done on Procreate. My pudgy little Spider-Man. Some Wolverines think about beer. Oh, I was showing my editor. I've been showing my boss at school these Wonder Woman books. I've really been loving the art. The Tom King run. This is how when you have depression, you see things in black and white. You got to remind yourself to look at color every now and then. More procreate. Spider-Man has always been my guide because when I was a kid, ninth grade, my dad was dying of cancer, and I went through this molestation thing up at Camp St. Michael, which was a camp near Santa Rosa. And I used to have a job back then when I was a kid of going up on the gym roof to pick up the tennis balls that were hit up there. And one day I was at the side of the roof and I looked down and I thought, all I had to do is just lean forward. I could just sleep in forever and not deal with this shit. And before I could do it, I remembered that it was part 2 of Spider-Man Gang War with Doc Ock and Hammerhead. And Romita was drawing it. And I thought, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go to the store and I'll read those books. And then tomorrow I'll come back and do the suicide thing. And I climbed down off the roof and I saw the principal. I gave him the keys and said, I don't think I should go up there anymore. And which is why I've always bought Spider-Man. To this day, listen, I bought some shitty Spider-Man books. This was the image I used to replace my sister's image on Facebook. And that's her. That's the actual drawing I made. You can see the little pencil lines in there.
Nice.
I had these tears that were coming out of, I call them Miyazaki tears. These big boulders come off under my eyelid. You could feel them come rolling out. And none of them hit that ink. I was shocked. Right here, you could see a little dark spot. But they were like water balloons in the paper. This is what I showed my students, talk about contrast. And also, I wanted them to have their women doing more ballsy things. So I recommended the series. This is my dad doing the whole thing with the drawing the waitress on the back of the check. This is one of the times when I drew my dad, and I feel like I spent the day with my dad. It's like it was a really cool feeling. Procreate really is an amazing tool. I love using this thing. This is was a commission piece, and it's brush pen. It is Sharpie, and then all the scribbling is, I think that's ballpoint pen. It took forever. Good gobbledygook. Looks cool though. I never know what these things are going to be when I start these things, and then when they're done, I'm always like, "Yeah, that came out of my head." Like, that's kind of cool. This is a family I've drawn every year. Sometimes they're Spider-Man characters. Sometimes they're the Avengers. This time it was Guardians. Another commission. Mom likes to do karaoke. This is a wedding. I got to go to a wedding and draw the wedding, like I was covering it for a newspaper. So they let me go anywhere to look at anything. This was their first dance. This is a guy whose favorite character is Warlock from the X-Men. And I really dig how that came out.
Yeah, it's very creative.
Very fun. I was also very high. This was, I've done this thing where I go to this comedy show and I draw the comics and they don't know it. So when it's done, I post on Instagram and I tag them. And now they know who I am. So when I show up, they ask who I'm drawing that day. This guy was really tall. His last name is Connor. There's my friend. This is the guy at Ozielo's who cooks all the hamburgers. His name is Bean. And he has a lot of my drawings. And I also did the logo for his weed company, which means I get weed for life. So when I'm out, I contact him and he restocks me. One of the best moves I made. This was a woman who loves, this is a drawing for her and from her husband. She loves, who's that? Jane Austen and karaoke. This is a guy in Puerto Rico who I know who loves Batman, but he's also a librarian. This has been his profile picture for about 2 years now. This is a guy, okay. So this is the husband of the comic shop owner who passed away. He passed away shortly afterwards. Wonderful couple. They bought all my stuff when it was like mini comics. She was huge in my career. She passed away last year. It's a commission for Usagi. This is a color pencil with brush pen. That's her. This is Christine Moran, and she owned the comic shop. And boy, you couldn't get anything in her store unless she looked at it first. And so I brought my mini comics in, and she was all about them, man. She sold so many of my books. These are the women I work with. All the teachers that I help. And so they have these on the back of their ID tags, and the kids are always looking at them. Mariah's here. I love drawing her hair. I must have stared at her for an hour during the meeting just so I get the hair down. They had no idea they were getting these. So it was very fun. I gave them all their own little envelopes and they all opened them up, and it was really cute. I think I nailed Quick Draw McGraw on this drawing. I was very happy with it. That's Speed Buggy. If it was bit by a radioactive spider. Telling a kid not to give up on art. That, yeah, you're going to suck big time right now, but later on you get better. And even though this is how I used to draw myself, and this is how I draw myself now. Not as fat. I need the glasses off, but that's up to me. Whenever I show them eating pizza, it's always my friend's name, Avanzito's Pizza. He directs The Simpsons. Yeah, this is a tough one. Okay. And this is me basically just trying every tool in Procreate. Punisher. This is where I help kindergartners with their math. And it says, I discovered something about myself helping the kids at school. And I said, you see, if you add 2 to 7, you have 9. He goes, oh, okay. Yeah, and 2 more is 11. He goes, oh, okay. I would absolutely crush kindergarten if I went back today. I would be the greatest kindergartner in history. I would be better at sports. I would set records. And so I would be a legend on the playground. I see them play. They all take small and tiny steps. And it says, I know I'd crush it in art class. Teacher, look what I made. I made art too. Mine sells for $200, Kylie. I'd have more confidence in English now. Look, I can make capital letters. Cool. I wrote and illustrated a 300-page graphic novel. I will bring order back to the dreaded snack line. Oh, no, we don't. No cutting. I'd also set another record. Who needs to go to the bathroom? Again? You went potty 10 minutes ago. The tarantula. I love that guy. This, I believe, was commissioned for this guy. Very fun drawing. Silver Surfer, Kingpin. This is the guy who waited forever to get his drawing. Toad. I love the Fly. This was a thing called a buddy bench. If you're sitting on a buddy bench, someone's supposed to come over and say, hey, are you having a bad day? I thought Matt could have used one of those when I was in school. Hydro Man. I haven't answered one question in this whole segment. Nobody has a question at all.
Well, I'd like to know what kind of questions you'd like to hear from us, because we're having a lot of fun just looking at all the pictures.
Oh, good. Okay.
You know,
I don't know. Was there anything that pops in your head at all? This was fun.
you've been very, very clear in where the art comes from and where you get your ideas from and what you're using for a program. It's like you're answering all our questions as you go along. You're like,
Yeah, I got a
best...
question. I have
Ah,
a question about when you're at the bar drawing like the comedians or the musicians, right? So do you would you be willing to share any of those drawings, preliminary drawings? Do you have any of those that you could show us?
Those would be let me see. Would probably be on the Procreate. That's the page I'm working on right now. And let's see. Man, I'm so bad at keeping track of my drawings. They're also done digitally, so it's
So you carry your iPad to the bar and draw on your iPad instead of a sketchbook?
yeah, because they're so busy with their set. They at worst case scenario, they think I'm a critic to review the show.
Yeah.
No one's told them that I'm in the audience. The owner now knows who I am, so I didn't go in there. I tend to sit towards the back. I don't like being up front. First of all, because he's going to find you right away, and then what I do is like I can show you in the like the circus ones, or this wedding one. These are the wedding sketches, and they will look like this when I do the color. If I take out this, and then where is that? There should be one that has like just the sketch. All right, hold on. That's all. There's one that has the actual. On this one, I did bring a ballpoint pen and a pad, and I imported the sketches onto Procreate. Come on, girl. Come on. There you go. At least you'll see it on this. So that was a rough I did. It was very hot that day, and so the best man was holding an umbrella over her, and the maid of honor was giving her water. And so went from that. Actually, I can show you this. This is kind of fun to show. Here, video, time lapse. This sketch took about 15 minutes. And then I go to inks. I do all the objects on one layer. And that's just erased on a separate layer. It's way easier for me. And then all the heavy blacks are on another layer, and that's a separate layer. Some highlights. The dress was really cool. And then the bride and groom got they got the entire sketchbook that had the ballpoint pen sketches in. And that was sort of my gift to them. This was the groom and his brothers trying to sneak some beer out of the cooler, and the mom caught them. And they had a lot of fun with this one because they got busted by mom, and that looked like that in the beginning. So I'm just walking around taking notes like this, and then when I go back home, then it's line art, and then all the objects. You can see how many layers are in here. Even if it's something as simple as highlighting the face, I do a separate layer for that. And then, that pencil I use is called Blackburn. And that's the big swoosh in the back of my drawings. Like for instance, those swooshes in the background, that's Blackburn.
I think your swooshes are incredible, and they're so creative and so animated, and you can just feel what's going on just by looking at your characters and the swooshes that you use. It's beautiful stuff.
Thanks. That's a lot of that's out. I used to be in love with Al Hirschfeld's work, and when he would stretch an arm, he would really stretch it. This is hanging in their mother's place. She brought a date to the wedding, and she's explaining who everyone is. And but they're in front of this giant bush that had all these really cool textures to it. A lot of times I just leave the background showing through the characters. I really think digital allows me to try things and to have fun and experiment. There's always an undo button. This is hanging in their house. They have this framed, this, and then he looks like this. This is him walking up the aisle. And they're circus performers, so I want a little bit of performance in them. And then things like, I think these are the circus performers. Yeah, these are burlesque performers for these shows by Jake Ward, and he does these burlesque shows. And this guy was great to draw. I think he used this for one of his shows to promote his shows. But that looks like That was like that in the beginning. It's almost like Tarzan. And then it goes to this. And then all the tones go in. But once you put the red in the background, boom. It's that, and then there's oh, who else is here? She was from Canada. Really fun performer. Let's see. What else do I have in here? This is animated. My first attempt at animation. My oldest friend and the first gay man I ever met is my friend Rob, who's a DJ. He goes by DJ Rotten Robbie. Plays all the bear festivals. I didn't know what gay was. He had to explain to me what gay was because we were so young. And every year I draw him. And this was the drawing I did last year for him. And again, I think you can see right here. There's the actual sketch. It doesn't take much. And then once you start inking it in, you put all the little details in. And then the colors comes in. And you just have fun with it. Because I don't make this the thing that pays my bills, Donna, I can have a lot of fun with this shit. This is how to leave comics the Dilbert way.
No, you mentioned, do you want to, you said something to me? You said,
Well, you know how earlier I said that I had to have a realization that my art wasn't going to pay my bills anymore. So I might as well have fun with it.
well, the thing is, if
And
you're having fun with it, you're going to end up making money anyway. So
hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just quit making that being the focal point of doing my stuff. It was more therapeutic for me.
Yeah, if you don't pay attention to the money, then the money comes automatically because you're obviously doing something fun and original, and you're paying attention to what you need to do, and it makes it honest and truthful, and people buy it.
These were other performers at the burlesque shows. This was a lot of fun. This guy was a flamenco dancer.
Ooh.
This is a contest. You had to paint with a dildo. So she won because it looked like a bird. The thing she drew, like that's almost exactly what she painted. And the look of pride on her face was fantastic. This was on New Year's. She had this giant bottle that would explode. All this glitter. So much glitter. Let's see. Yeah, they would oh, this was almost too tough to watch, but they would just insert things in the craziest of the ways into their eyelids, up their nostrils. but I've known these two forever. I've drawn them so many times, and yet every time I have to draw them, it's like, oh my god. She did a burlesque show about wanting to do the washing machine repair guy. This one was kind of fun. A friend of mine and I go to these things, and we only have the performance to draw them, to get the idea. There's no going back. So when we get a good performer, we get really good pieces. She was amazing. She made those tassels spin so fast. And then she also had a really fun body to draw. And she was really cool. And this is something where they used to did there was a time when they didn't know I was drawing them. And now they know when I show up that I'll be drawing them. People in the audience. Yeah, my friend and I have a little notoriety because of doing these things. When we show up to shows, people want to know if we're drawing that night. These are playmats I made for the store I used to work at. For Magic the Gathering. And this was a lot of fun to make.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the follow-up. Let's see what else we got in here. So Batman drawings. It's been John Romita passed away. This was Inktober, I think, for Spider-Man. A lot of fun. But I'll show you now. I'll show you some of the book stuff real quick. So my next book is would be this. Hopefully this year, if they can decide on when to print them. But that's the cover art. And there's all kinds of new characters. Pardon me there. This is where I really started experimenting with screens. And I use them just a little bit in this book. But if you go to a later book, like the California one, there's a lot more screen being used. For instance, it's a new character. She lives in Santa Rosa. She's Mexican. Her name's Gia de los Muertos. Where's that picture? This is the one. They had to go to Santa Rosa, so her uncle could give a talk on Puerto Rico cuisine, but they don't know if this creature can handle being in a plane, if it enjoys flying. So they find this creature that can take her up in the air to see if the Chupacabra has any problems with heights, and it doesn't. It actually likes it quite a bit. It's Isabel that has the problem. The one Bobo's pot one, the one's sort of like a Hitchcock thing, looks like this. That's the cover art. Where's some of that art? On this one, I started using more of the screens. There it is. It's the first appearance of Juan Bobo. That would look like. Oh, you know what? On one of the books, I got like 80 pages into the book, and I realized that I had a DPI at 72.
Ooh.
And I had to re-import all those pages and redraw them. Yeah, I scored like a sailor that day.
Could you
Let's see.
repeat what the problem was? I couldn't quite hear that.
72 DPI.
Yeah, it was on 72 instead of 400 or 600, and it would have come out the size of a postage stamp if I printed it.
Oh, man.
And here he's discussing. I think you found Juan Bobo's pot. And then he gives it a peanut butter sandwich, and then he's instantly pulled into the pot. Then there's like scenes like this here. This is just me. When I quit the comic shop, and I took like 7 months off, and I just drew every day. I said, if I take this time off, I'm not going to just sit here and get high and play video games. I'm gonna work, and so I did 3 books.
Yeah, I'm amazed at the volume of work that you've done.
Me too. No one's more surprised than me about that. This is also including like just silly sketches to do in the morning, or a commission for someone, or the comic strip. I'm doing the comic strip at the same time I'm doing these. And the creature is just so much fun to draw. It's the tail. I'm always looking at photos of cats and dogs at play. And these are all iconic statues. And then this is another one I introduced. One of the Vejigantes, one of those spirit creatures, is this woman, and that's the owner of the comic shop. That's Christina. So it's sort of my homage to her. And then she feeds it, and she's pulled in. Very fun page to do.
That's amazing.
That was a fun one. Thanks. And then you find out that they're all okay. They're just in the pot. And they're all eating an iconic dish that it's the first dish they ever cooked for somebody. And that's the key, is that you can't just give it something. It has to have meaning to it. So the only one left to cook, who knows how to cook, is she opens hers up, and it's McNuggets. It's little chicken nuggets. That's what her mother used to make her. And she goes, "Oh, Niguitos de pollo." And she said, "It wasn't fancy, but I lived on these things." She made them all the time. And I'd always ask for them, and she'd always make them. And his is chio frito, a fried snapper. And so this guy's left to cook, and he's a student, but he works at the restaurant. He's learning how to be a chef. And he says, "I can't cook any of this shit." And he decides, I'm going to make the very first thing I cooked my mom. And it's macaroni and cheese with tuna fish. This is the first dish I learned to make. And I lived on this for a long time. I still love making this sometimes. And it's just, you make it the regular way, then you add some tuna fish to it. And his friend says, "That sounds disgusting." It says, "Whatever, man. Me and my mom we lived on this thing for quite a while till I learned to make other dishes." And so it sits there, and he says, "Who's going to feed it?" And they're all in there, and they know something's going on. And then he feeds it to them, and they start disappearing. And then they all reappear right here. And this was probably the funnest of the books to make, because I got to just have fun with it. So this is see, if I was trying to get this book out, because it's been 3 months and they need another book. There'd be so many shortcuts for me. And, maybe other people can handle a deadline and be able to put books out and all that kind of stuff. But the characters mean too much to me. They know when a book's going off the rails.
Well, if you teach your readership that when it's done, then they start then they're like, okay, we get it.
This is one where there's a thing in the book where when the girl sleeps, the creature can take over the body and do whatever it wants. And this is based on me babysitting my landlord's dog. That it behaved way differently with me than my landlord. And it was ready for snack time at all times and to play at all times. And this one, they all came out of the kettle, and then she's cooking. She wants to learn her mother's recipes, and she's afraid to open it up because what if it's bad? What if it got screwed up?
I love the food theme because it brings to mind my mother and my father. My mother would say, "Don't play with your food," and my dad would smile impishly and say, "Don't play with your food."
Oh my! There's a thing in here where he puts ketchup on eggs, and she calls them murder eggs. And that's what we used to tell my dad. On here, he's talking about how, with your mom, she loved that time. She adored that time in the kitchen with you. Her only worry about you getting older was that you were going to not want to do this anymore with her. And so she's kind of reconnecting with that side of her. This was a fun panel. So go over and open your dish. Maybe you have just as much likely chance that it came out great than anything happened to it. And she does. And this took me forever it's called arroz con Honduras. It's chickpeas and rice. And I took a photo of this dish from above. And man, you can see I'm doing all these little rice kernels and stuff. So I didn't want anyone to say it doesn't look like a rice good. It doesn't look like the dish. And then she tries. She goes, actually, it tastes just like Mom's. And this was a book that could have been like a 24-page book, and I was able to blow it up. This is I think I take this out. There we go. And you can kind of see her there with them. The professor's buying. He's going to make the dish that his mother made. And at this point in the series, a lot of her friends know about the Chupacabra because she needed their help throughout different books. The dreaded Wambobo. You also find something about the professor had a brother that he doesn't talk to anymore. That was from my life. That came out of a real situation. This is a famous bakery called La Bombadetta. And Lily and I ate there all the time when we lived there. And this is actually the center square. That's an actual waiter who worked there. And no matter what I ordered, he got my order wrong. And I would just eat whatever he served me. Her dish was always correct. As a matter of fact, if you look, the bottom panel, hey, who's that eating there? That's me. I always make a cameo in my books. In this one, I overlaid screen over screen. And to be honest with you, I don't know how that's going to print up, but I'll find out. This is an old coffee machine they have. That's from Cuba. And I had to redraw this thing. Yeah, this whole issue is about food and how food does it. Food brings someone back in your life. It takes you places. It's I think Angel finds out that she has this thing in her. And when he finds out, he takes off running for the hills. Where is it? This is a fun one. She goes to his house because he made dinner for her and her friend. Screen tones also allow me to do more ethnic people. And then am I talking too much?
No, not at all.
This was a fun one. This is the actual taco truck I go to. It's once a week. After a long week, I will reward myself by going to this taco truck, and I get myself some elotes and some tacos. She's never had elotes. She thinks the Mexican food is too spicy. That's all they're gonna have. She thinks it's gonna be too cold to go to the beach. All these things, and he's saying, "No, man, they got food, man. Their food's good." This is Gia. She can open little portals to go places. Paddleball on the beach is one of the biggest things they play. I think at this point they all know about Isabel and her friend. But there's a scene here. Where is it? They're walking on this alleyway, and there's these guys waiting for them. And she insulted them earlier, so now they're back to give some payback. And Isabel doesn't back down because that's who she is. And she's like, "I gotta warn you, if you touch me, you're gonna regret it." And the guy does. And then she has no idea that Isabel has this ability, so she sees her transform. And when she sees that, she's excited because she also has powers. And her abilities are she can summon some people from the underworld to come help out. And they both stare at the carnage, and they both dig it. And so the first place to go hang out is on top of this. This is the sign of our mall here in Santa Rosa, Coddington Plaza. And she's completely brand new and was a lot of fun to write, where I think I would like to do maybe a solo book with her. I'm trying to do more with Angus. There's this tree that has been dead for decades, and nothing grows on the land. Whatever they plant withers and dies. And it turns out she wants her babies. And a winery came along, and she used to have a bunch of redwood trees around her. And they formed a perfect circle around her, and she loved her trees. And then one day, a truck pulled up, and they got rid of all the trees, put them on this thing, and drove off. And the trees were replanted at a winery. And so these two are going to try to steal the trees back. And if they can, then these creatures called rebops, which were popular when I lived in Napa, they were sort of the urban myth, these flying monkeys. They can help the two girls, but they won't, because they're sort of assholes. But they realize the winery makes a specific wine that they love. And he says, we'll do it for 6 barrels. And she goes, 6 barrels? How are we supposed to carry 6 barrels? Just 2 of us. And Isabel, the second panel, says, is that a lot? That sounds like a lot of wine. He says, it's like 6 Volkswagens full of wine. He goes, how the fuck are we supposed to carry that? He says, that's for you to figure out, not me. So they leave. They hang out, and the girl unlatches a plan where Tio Tony and her mother show up to do a tour of the winery, because he owns a restaurant and he wants to carry their wines. And so they get a tour. And as long as they have this, as long as Isabel, this girl, as long as she knows where something familiar is, she can teleport there. So he throws this little sack of coins into the barrel room where this wine is stored. And the girl says, I have a fix, we can go in. So she opens a portal into the wine cellar. And then Chica runs around to see if the coast is clear. And then the girl's gonna teleport the wine out of the barrels. And teleport them into the barrels of the monkeys who have their own barrels. And he says, you did it, we'll help you. So what happens is, that night, these monkeys fly in from overhead and land on the trees. And when they do, the trees give up their roots. They let go of the ground and are teleported. And if you were awake that night, you would have seen 6 trees flying over the skies of Santa Rosa. And they end up back where they belong. And when that happens, the mother tree blooms again.
Is that based in the fact that trees form communities in their roots?
It came from a story I read on folklore for Santa Rosa folklore, and it was called the witching tree, and that the trees were moved. But then I saw the side story about this winery that had a bunch of trees uprooted and moved to their winery estate.
Mhm.
And so that kind of formed this. When they get back home, she tells her friend, Isabel says, I feel good about what we did, but then again, the winery lost all that money. And she goes, no, I said everyone would be compensated. She says, they'll be easy, I think easily compensated. I think I have the lettering on here somewhere. Here we go. She says, perhaps not. Funny, Reeboks love wine. That's why they live here. They love it more than money. And Reeboks, she pulled a double switch is what she did. And while she teleported the wine, at the same time, she teleported their coins into the barrels.
Mhm.
So they said, won't they notice it missing? They love money. She goes, they love making money, but they're not too great at counting it. So she goes, I want to be you when I grow up. I'm also changing Isabel's hair to where her bangs are more flat.
Mhm.
It just makes her a little easier to work with expressions.
I just got to say here real quick, I really do need to go and fix some folks some supper. So
Yep.
this has been like one of our best presentations ever. I haven't seen your work in years and years, and this is gorgeous, and it's wonderful to see it shared. And thank you so much, Tom. I really
Oh,
appreciate
you're welcome.
you.
Glad you guys had a great time.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It's fabulous. It's just that we're starting to lose people. They're starting to have to leave, and I really do need to go off and get some food started for people. I'm the cook.
It is the fourth quarter also, so I'm itching to get back there also.
Yeah, you want to go back and watch football games. So, but no, one of the best presentations we've ever had. This was absolutely marvelous.
I agree.
Oh, super. I'm glad you had a great time.
Great time.
Anytime you
Great
want,
time.
let me know.
Well, we will have a drinking draw, so
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
show up again.
Which, for everybody who's interested, is next Thursday at 6:30, and I'll have the information out in no time. But anyway,
Great.
thanks again, Tom, and thanks to everybody for attending, and hope you all have a great evening.